And we're live.
Howdy.
Howdy. That's a very Texas introduction. Howdy.
Yeah. By the way, I've not dyed my hair. I saw that in the Robinhood Weekly or Tech Bros, whatever we're calling it. This show, we've not had to change the name, which is great. I've not dyed my hair. It's a different camera. I bought it. I'm like, oh, this will be great. And because I'm running on the Linux operating system like a dummy, I didn't check to see if the software supported Linux, and it does not. So I'll figure that out. Maybe I'll return it. I don't know. But my hair is extra red. It is reddish, but I've not dyed my hair. I'm not on a Hims product. Nothing like that. So
I mean, it looks good. We haven't done this show, and it feels like a long time. I know it's not that long, but it feels long. And I think one of my lights went out.
Yeah, I mean, like, these are markets that there's just so much news. Like, a lot of that is who we currently have as the president. Sometimes that's great, sometimes that's not so great, but there's a lot of headline stuff happening even outside of earnings season. And if somebody's new to the market, that might be like, oh, this is normal. It's like, it's more than normal. And also, you know, it's, I don't know, every single stock, every single ticker is very news sensitive right now. Well, for the most part. So a lot more volatility, which is great for us option sellers, especially if you are on the other side of whatever Tevis is selling. If he sells 21 covered calls, just do 24s, you know, they're safe. Or just buy the calls. Actually, buy them from the man. That's how you make money, not financial advice. Oh, by the way, cheers.
Hey, cheers. Oh, look at you. Oh man, yeah. No, this is fun, dude. This has been like the longest week of my life. It has been a roller coaster, and I totally didn't think it was Wednesday for the longest time, and it is. So,
you
only halfway through.
Not sure if anyone else is seeing that, or maybe I'm the one frozen.
You are fine. Okay, let's jump right in. What's our first topic, Roy? People are still pulling in.
This. Let me make sure I'm not sharing my account, and I'm not. And it's, well, I can blow it up to full size, but zooming in will only do so much. This is year-to-date gains for some of the hotter names right now. Of course, Nvidia is the stock. And the other indicators you can see right there are not stocks at all, but instead Bitcoin right here and Ethereum. And I thought it would be interesting to kind of talk about that and also review yearly gains, annual gains so far. So 20% in half of a year is respectable. Outside of a bull market, in a bull market, I mean, other things will outperform. What's incredible to me is the Nvidia news. Like, did you buy Nvidia at all, Tevis?
I bought Nvidia on the dip. I think I caught it like around 105, 104. And then I sold like cash secured puts to get assigned. And I sold covered calls all the way up. And I got my calls called away at 150 about a couple weeks ago. I mean, look, don't be feeling too sorry for me. It was like a 45% gain in like a month and a half. So I'm okay with it.
Yeah. I mean, like, and there will be dips along the way, but what's crazy is just how far we've come in such a little amount of time from those April 5th, April 7th bottom, I guess, on Nvidia. And one of those big things that moved and shifted, of course, this week, which was a massive thing for the markets, is the news that Nvidia actually can sell the H20s in China, that they cleared that with the White House press release. Everything's good. It actually kind of surprised me at the time because back in April, they were told, hey, you can't do this unless there's licenses. Nobody knew how the licensure part would work, if they'd be granted, how they'd be granted, what that means as far as volume. And Nvidia took a over $5 billion impingement from this because they built all this supply up that they could suddenly no longer sell. What's really interesting to me is just, you know, first, how long it actually took for that to be cleared, because it was right after Jensen Huang had said, hey, we're investing billions of dollars in the United States as far as infrastructure. And I was like, well, they have a lot of leverage, you know, with the White House. We know the taco thing, Trump always chickens out, is now a thing now. But I was actually expecting that to be reversed far earlier, but it was not for whatever reason. So, did this news take you by surprise at all, Tevis, or were you like thinking, "Hey, uh, right on time," or were you thinking that they'd never be able to sell this?
No, I think eventually Jensen is one of those competent CEOs that I knew I was confident that he would find a way. I mean, AMD was rallying on the back of this news as well. And my first thought, frankly speaking, was, I've been waiting for the other shoe to drop in terms of what's going to bring down this market for a pullback because we're sort of overdue for one. And when I saw the Nvidia running 3% after hours, I thought to myself, well, this rally is absolutely going to continue now because Nvidia is going to drag up the rest of the market on that news. But again, it is earnings season coming up in a couple of weeks. So I wouldn't be so sure that we're not going to have a pullback. Earnings is going to offer a lot of opportunities, and I'm keeping plenty of cash on the side to take advantage of some unnecessary drawdowns as a result of some, inflated expectations that the market has because we've been running hot for so long. And so I more so saw this Nvidia news as a macro indicator and less so as a specific company indicator.
Yeah. No, I think that's a good way to see it. And I too have actually more cash than I'd like on the sidelines, but I'm okay with that during earnings season, even if earnings season is great. And I think it will be for most names. Well, we'll talk about the setup for earnings season here in just a moment. There's always names that get hit, and they shouldn't. The market is not efficient. People believe in the efficient market hypothesis, but there's always every single quarter quality names that get hit from something that's silly. And sometimes those dips last just a day or two. Sometimes they last months. Sometimes they can last a lot longer too. It's not a bad thing. I'm not saying anyone else should do this, but I don't hate having extra cash on the sidelines right now. The other side of that too, Tevis, and maybe you'll do this as well, is in that week, if there's a name that's reporting like a HIMS or a Palantir or a SoFi, selling cash secured puts at lower strike than you're like, yeah, it's not going to go that low just for free premium is nice. Now, the only risk is if you're doing that on names you don't actually want to hold or strikes you're not comfortable with. So no degeneracy here, but I'll be making a little bit of money on the side too. So not a bad thing.
Well, I mean, I do have cash secured puts for $18 for SoFi simply because I used that premium for my covered calls, like to save my covered calls essentially. And, if those really get hit, I can roll out of those cash secured puts. But if those get hit, then my covered calls are totally safe. So it's just a hedge play for me. I think the cash I have on the side, I'm going to be assessing on a company by company in basis. And really, I'm only looking at, 5 or 6 companies that are on my short list that I would want to get in and seeing if they get disproportionately hit. But I think with this euphoria in the market where it currently stands, there is a high likelihood that things are going to get sold off disproportionate. Like if Palantir reports an earnings and they don't have accelerating growth, let's say they have same percentage as last quarter, with the euphoria being at where it is, it would get because the expectations are built in. And so, and not just to pick on Palantir, but any company like that, right? I think with HIMS, a lot of the eyeballs is going to be around the new products that are launching towards the second half of the year. It's interesting, actually. I don't know if you saw the HIMS news today, Roy, but if you haven't, maybe we can run through that.
Ooh, I didn't. I wanted to talk about I know you guys had HIMS Weekly the other day,
Yes.
but the bigger news. Well, I don't know what this news is, so maybe not. But before we go there, real quick, I thought that Brad Gerstner's, he's a well-known investor, all cap. If you throw this up here.
So just by the way, before I throw that up, I see a lot of people asking, covered call questions and cash secured puts questions. Hood, I see a lot. So I'm just gonna bookmark all of these comments that have questions, and then we can cover them at the very end. Okay, so go with your Brad Gerstner news.
Yeah, so he mentioned this when Sachs came out with this breaking news, and he said protecting Huawei from competition in their home market doesn't make sense and isn't working. It just makes it harder for the American AI stack to win the world. As with the internet, allowing Nvidia to compete in China increases the odds American AI wins around the world. And like and agree with that take. It didn't make sense at the time. It hurts a company that benefits America immensely. And frankly, if you take that away from the market time and time again, like China will come out with their own solution, which will probably be cheaper, maybe not better, but cheaper and decent. And then that puts headwinds against American companies as well. So it just seems like it's a win-win, also for China, also for Nvidia, also for us investors, for everybody except for Tevis, who had to settle with a measly 70% gain in 2 months.
Well,
whatever.
Yeah, it wasn't exactly that high, but it was. It definitely beat the market. Let's put it that way. And
Oh, yeah.
what I will say is, I think by and large, America or the West is winning that AI race. I mean, I don't know. This is biased towards the news that we see because there could be a lot of developments in the other side of the world that we just aren't privy to from a news cycle perspective. But mainly, I saw China have their sort of watershed moment. The when DeepSeek came out, and it was like, holy crap, they can do this at a fraction of the cost to be somewhat comparably just as good. And then from there, nothing really happened. And we saw, I mean, I made a post about this around X AI and their new companion, and we can talk about that. But the fact that, Grok has now become like the top downloaded app, like across the world on that back alone, and the competition heating up with regards to like IDEs, in other words, like prompt-based engineering, vibe coding, vibe marketing, MCP, all of these developments, all powered by Nvidia chips. Like, I think that, I saw this post on X, and it was like a Palantir ad, and it was like a large banner. I don't know who posted it. I can't remember. I will bring it up, but it was basically, it said like, America dominated the 20th century. America is going to dominate the 21st. And I was like, I kind of agree with that, because from an innovation perspective, like that free market is doing exactly what it was designed to do with regards to the AI revolution being fully adopted. And I don't know, man, the pace is just, it's really encouraging. And more so, it's accelerating, in my opinion. And I see this, like, I'm speaking as someone from my day job's perspective, working in the tech sector. It's more exciting for me today than it was 6 months ago or a year ago, because you're now stitching together different technologies for different use cases across different verticals. And it almost is to that point where, like, it's starting to have an increased level of feasibility outside of, just the prompt window, so to speak.
And I know it's been said before. I think you even said this. Today is the worst AI will be.
It's the worst it's ever going to be. Yeah, exactly.
And that just like it's getting very useful, even more so. It's not perfect. There are things it's not going to replace humanity for, at least any time soon. But yeah, it has massive ramifications for businesses. And I think honestly, like a lot of the work, the consumer facing stuff, like we can make it work and make things good. But like really what's happening with business, like Google has mentioned a huge amount. I think over 50% of their coding is actually being done basically through vibe coding, through the AI agents. They basically give it instructions. Dorian, you might know him as CodeStrap. He's a Palantir guy, or worked for an agency that worked alongside with Palantir. Brilliant coder. I had not heard this term before, but I think it was coding 3.0. Let me pull it up, what it was. But I looked into it briefly in a break that I had today at work, and I'm like,
Web3, you mean? Or no?
It's not Web3, software 3.0. Yeah, I was like, here it is. It's an interesting post. He's got a whole video on the subject too. And whenever, by the way, he's a good follow, even if you're not in Palantir. He doesn't post too much Palantir stuff these days. But he is a high level software engineer. And if you kind of want to know what's going on in that world before it becomes mainstream, you follow this guy. And then when he says things like this, or mentions like vibe coding like 8 months ago, or model context protocol 6 months ago, you're like, oh, okay. So that's like the next big wave and big thing. So I even asked him, I was like, is this just vibe coding with agents? And yeah, it's a long video. So if you're into that, but a good follow. So, but it's really right now where it's at is the impact is on the business world, more so than consumers right now. Consumers still use it. I don't know that there's any like must-haves as far as consumer-facing specific products, and I think that will become real when this becomes more fully integrated with AI. But with especially with what Anthropic has been doing with Model Context Protocol and a lot of their stuff, the vibe coding and the replacement of just a lot of different things that companies do, it's not been perfect. There's been a bumpy road, but there's been a lot of very small layoffs by even including Microsoft of companies just because they're like, hey, we don't actually need these people anymore. Sometimes it's a circumstance where the business is deteriorating. Sometimes it's just they didn't need all those people all much, but some of it has been the replacement impact of AI. And more so what companies I think are doing are just not hiring for some of the positions that they would be filling back again. Even PayPal actually had a small layoff earlier this week.
Right. Well, I mean, Josh has a question around PayPal, which we're going to get to at the end. I want to bring up Ricardo's question because he actually donated. Do you have any Mercado? I don't. Mercado Libre has been doing really well. Roy, do you have Mercado Libre? The Amazon?
No. When I was looking for a position outside the United States, I wanted it to be in Latin America because of the geography and what's happening there. You could argue Southeast Asia has stronger impact as far as GDP growth, but it's an area I understand less. Plus, I don't speak any of the languages. So I chose Latin America. I'm like, hey, nearshoring, there's a lot of growth that's happening there. And so there were two companies that I looked at that I'm like, hey, either of these would be phenomenal. And honestly, if I didn't want a super concentrated portfolio, I would have picked both. And that was Mercado Libre and Nubank. I think that they're incredibly strong companies that are resilient, that are going to dominate Latin America. They do compete with each other on a very small niche. Mercado Libre did launch some banking products, and I think they'll continue to go that route. Nubank will launch some products as well that compete with Mercado Libre, but for the most part, what they're doing is disrupting others that are in the space, or even going into like native soil, virgin ground, which has not been hit at all. A lot of these places, for example, it's severely underbanked, and people don't have access to loans or lending of any kind. And Nubank excels in that. They're dominating in Brazil, still plenty of upside there. Mexico, they're doing well. Colombia, they're doing well. Argentina's probably next, and then maybe the United States, just for the Latino population that we have. Mercado Libre is doing the same thing. Now, there's different geographies. There's different players involved. They're incredibly strong. The only thing I don't like about them is their share price is so high. It makes it impossible because I don't have billions like Tevis to sell covered calls. So,
yes. And if you were like Tevis and selling covered calls, you'd probably get your shares called away very quickly. Yeah. Okay. Let's see. Yeah, there's a bunch of questions. I'm bookmarking all the questions, and we are going to address them at the end of the show. Can I talk about this XAI thing really quick? I found this really interesting, man. Okay, context of why I found this interesting. Because I work, I don't know if I want to say this, but I work for a video game company. And this is something where we've been talking internally about, just like on a theoretical level, around NPC AI companions in a game to deepen personalization in the game. And this is something that's not necessarily new to the gaming space. Like, games have been improving their NPCs for years, but now that you have this deep context with regards to AI, I think that you can really get this monetization lever on steroids. Because what I see here with regards to the Grok AI companion, I don't know, Roy, if you saw this, but this was all over X. It was like impossible to miss it.
I saw the gross versions of it, and I'm like, all right, I'm muting those people.
Yes, and it's disastrous for humanity, sure. But if you're thinking about the race to who is going to win from an AI perspective, then I think, hold on, sorry. If you're thinking about the race of who is going to win from an AI perspective, then I think that it's going to be the company ultimately that has the largest pool of resources that they can take advantage of, and the company that can innovate the fastest. And this is really a money printer idea, because people are absolutely going to get hooked on this AI companion. Like, I'm pretty sure a lot of people in Japan called in sick to work, that day. Like, it just, the servers crashed. It's the number one, Grok is the number one app in many countries currently. And so there is a demand for this. I mean, also like the loneliness epidemic, and we can talk about all that if you want to. But the point is, people are going to get hooked on this. Why are they going to get hooked on it? Because of the deep level of personalization and the fact that you can personalize this just however you want. The important part from a company perspective
is that you can have a girlfriend.
For XAI is the infinite ways that they can monetize this. They can do personalization through add-ons. They can do pay for interaction. They can do increased subscription tiers. They can do so many different avenues of how they can make money from this. And this essentially right here, the reason why I thought this was so interesting was because this companion thing is going to be like their cash cow as to how they fund the next layers of advancement of their actual like Grok 4 essentially. And so I think that the commercial application is absolutely going to be the R&D cash cow for all of the, scientific applications, for the advancement of the technology, for, the research and development, right? And so this is interesting. And the reason it's interesting is because the competitors don't have something like this, where ChatGPT, for example, is charging you hundreds of dollars a month or tens of dollars a month to be able to have access to their latest models. And yes, Grok is doing that too. But if, let's say, they roll out this, companion app, and for whatever reason, like I want to personalize my avatar to look and feel a certain way, and I choose to pay for that instead, well, I can imagine a world where Grok can be free or near free or significantly discounted relative to all the other competitors in the market who don't have this consumer app, essentially this companion app. And as a result of that, Grok can see way higher adoption because it sees way higher traffic. And so I just thought it was such a clear-cut case of them allowing further levers to pull from a monetization perspective to further advance their models through something that's like a commercial consumer application. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I agree. Like that's easily monetizable. There'll be a huge demand for that, and how that gets developed usually is in pornography. Honestly, a lot of those. I'm not saying Grok will do that, but somebody will, and that's going to be a huge market. I would invest in it. There are lines that I draw. It will push the technology further, and where that goes, I have concerns. I just. There is a loneliness epidemic, and it can help to a certain extent with that, but I don't think it's a one-for-one replacement for humans or humanity or even companionship with animals. It's in the end, it's a talking head. It's Francis Bacon's talking head, essentially, going back to the Middle Ages. But there's a danger there for humanity, for the birth rate. People mention that too. In its essence, depending on how it's rolled out, and there will be applications of this that certainly go that way, where people are basically playing God, expecting and programming their companion to be like whatever. And then if they have a real human relationship, that sets a stage for something that frankly is just very unhealthy. So I have concerns, and part of that just me being an old man and a dad, having kids that'll grow up with this, or at least my daughter is not even a teenager yet. So, but yeah, that said, technology is ultimately a tool, and it will be used for evil and it will be used for good.
Yeah.
And whichever wins out there, whichever is more prevalent, ultimately that's ours to decide. And we have agency to do that. So, but it is interesting. It will be interesting as well to see a lot of different consumer applications. One that's a little bit further out there, and I talked about it with with Tanner and Amit on Monday with the Tech Bros Weekly, was Meta. So Mark Zuckerberg made this massive play, of course, over the last few weeks for these top AI software designers and engineers, and they're the top of their field, taking from, I don't know, it's like 10 different companies, in some cases offering hundreds of millions of dollars, which is like,
Yeah.
premier sports athlete type stuff. So I'm like, hey, that on one hand, I think that's really cool just because geeks and nerds are getting paid like superstars, and they are. But what will Meta do with it? I don't think it's simply like, hey, let's have the best LLM, because ultimately it's a commodity, and commodities are only successful for how they're using it. Grok figured out a great way, I think, to monetize it. ChatGPT has some ways to monetize it. Anthropic has a very interesting way as far as really on that business and coding side that they're killing it there. I think Meta, their ultimate aims is for that metaverse to be real and creating some sort of a dynamic world that's very immersive. Like you've said, with these NPCs that are responsive, that they learn, that they grow. It's not just all programmed, and they're inferred by LLMs. You need a lot of processing power for that. You need some incredible LLMs for that, and also eventually perhaps creating an immersive world like a Ready Player One type thing, where it's a virtual world, virtual reality. It's not real, but it's immersive. You start playing a role playing game, and you'll never get to the point where you do all the quests where you've checked off every box. You can't, because it's a dynamic world. That sort of thing. I also have concerns, and I'm not invested in Meta for that reason, although I do think that they're going to do well. But that will be a huge, huge market as well. And I'm sure that there are dozens and dozens of other things like that that will be built along the way that we're not even considering, and perhaps most people are not. This is a huge gold rush. You can see the way that they're treating it as far as these Mag 7. And that's one thing to pay attention to as well as we enter earnings season, especially if you are an Nvidia shareholder, because they report after all the other Mag 7. Listen to the CapEx spend and what they're saying that they're doing, what they're planning to do, what they're doing with, and what they're getting as far as from AI. This is not slowing down anytime soon. It's not just a fad that's going to pass out like NFTs, where there's a little bit of good, but a lot of it just puffery. That's not the case at all.
Yeah, look, I think a couple things. So on the moral aspect, I 1,000% agree. Like, this is not something I like morally agree with. But I mean, we've had this conversation before. I'm more libertarian. I think we're both very libertarian in terms of the free market deciding, what eventually they're going to vote on with their wallets. I mean, OnlyFans is something that has been around. Like, I agree with this comment as well. Zuck has been doing Facebook and Instagram, which is like brain rot type of content with the reels. And so this is just the next level of extrapolating that outward in terms of where are we channeling the collective human intelligence, let's say, and effort towards something constructive and positive, or towards something that's sort of like deteriorating our collective conscience. With regards to the adoption, I think it's going to have massive adoption, because it's free dopamine hits, right? That you don't have to really work for, that you get to you catered, right? And so putting that to the side, in terms of these developers, like, I absolutely agree with the concept, and I'm surprised that it took so long to have these developers be, essentially seen as very valuable chess pieces for these companies, because your value, regardless of what vertical you're in or what job you have, your value from what you get paid is directly proportionate to the value that you provide for others. Whether you provide a very deep level of value for a small group of people, or whether you provide a superficial value to an obscenely large group of people, that's how much you're going to get paid. It's directly proportionate to a utilitarian sense of the value that you provide. And if Facebook can make $150 billion in market cap because they hired an engineer for $100 million, then the ROI is absolutely staggering there. And they should pay that engineer $100 million, because it is not only the difference of how much that engineer made them in market cap, but it is also the opportunity cost of not having that engineer and having them at a competitor. So double opportunity cost, basically, right? Because then the competitor would steal that market cap, or market share, I should say, instead of you. And so I absolutely think it's going to happen in a more predatory fashion, where people are going to start offering obscene levels of money to these people, because it's a very selective niche field right now, where a small subset of individuals are by and large leading the charge with regards to the innovation that's happening in this space. And so ultimately people might think, wow, this is insane. that this engineer is getting paid $100 million. It's more than an athlete. Well, what is an athlete? An athlete is a very short burst of entertainment for a very large group of people that see that athlete perform. What does that level of value correspond to for humanity? And now you think of that engineer and what innovation that engineer could introduce into the world. Well, arguably that value is much, much deeper than that athlete can provide. And so if you stand by that concept, yes, that engineer should be paid more than that athlete. And so that's how I see it in a very utilitarian, like black and white way, that first of all, they're not paying this guy $100 million in cash. They're not like, having white vans show up at his place with duffel bags full of like raw cash. They're getting shares.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And if I get paid $100 million in Meta shares and then Meta goes up, like everybody wins in that scenario. And so I think it's absolutely warranted. It's absolutely going to scale because more people are going to say, wait a minute, we can just bribe people with obscene amounts of cash as well. And I think it's ultimately long overdue because these are people that are providing real value. And now they're doing it in a vertical that's the fastest, technological wave that we've ever seen in our lifetimes.
Yeah, it's amazing how fast this is changing and ramping.
Yeah. Okay.
Hymns?
Yeah, sure. Hymns. Let me just bookmark some more. Yeah, and I agree with this, Elijah. It'll be the Grok Companion plus Optimus. And maybe not the Grok Companion. Well, sure, yeah, the Grok Companion is going to have a personality that's catered to you and what your temperament is. But more importantly, it's going to be the Grok, like, reasoning and the Grok, how can I say it? The Grok LLM in Optimus. Like, that's going to be, you're taking it from like a 2D world into a 3D world. And that's going to be a life changer for, everybody.
Yeah. I was really also pretty excited that Grok is being implemented now, not in ours yet, but in the Tesla. As far as an LM, right now it can only be accessed, there while you're parked, or you can talk to it. From what I know that you can do that. It can't be used to operate your vehicle. You can't, which would actually be useful because that voice command software is not great. It's probably on par with what Siri is able to do for you on Apple, which is not great. But when Grok is ready for that step, and I think it's sooner rather than later, that'll be pretty nice, especially for those that are brand new to Tesla that are a little bit overwhelmed with how to do certain things. It's like the whole Knight Rider vibe. So that'll be cool. In fact, they should have a Knight Rider kit voice specifically for people that want that.
Dude, I think that the next massive industry for entrepreneurs is going to be add-ons to LLMs. Just as the App Store was the wave that built millionaires off of the back of the iPhone, or those walled gardens for, let's say, Google, I think similarly, the LLMs are going to serve as the playground or the foundation. And the next set of millionaires or billionaires in this case are going to be the third-party add-ons and that app store that's built on top of that model. Because it just, the level of personalization that you need, I think, not as a primary function, but also as a secondary function, the MCP connections that are like APIs for the LLM, like those are things that can absolutely be obfuscated away through third parties and will be like indie developer teams or single developers that are backed or powered by AI, building these things in their spare time.
Sure.
So let's go into the hymns news. I'm also taking some notes around timestamps because I want to clip this video. I started a TikTok, Roy.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I'm like, I want to do more short form content. I want to try it out and see how it.
Yeah, we. I think it was a Miami summit for Robinhood. I don't remember what session it was, but somebody had asked where content was being created and consumed, and it was overwhelmingly on Twitter or X, a lot on YouTube, and there was one dude that I met that was a TikTok creator, and nobody was following Twitter as far as I know that there is a community out there. So, yeah.
Well, I think the interesting thing for me will be that to see, number one, if there is adoption or desire, and number two, to see how much of an overlap there is with the Twitter audience. And I was telling this to Elijah in our DMs. I was saying to Elijah how I want to use TikTok is almost like a video form Twitter. Like if I make a research or a post on Twitter that has, some insight, I want to have that in video format for TikTok. Stuff that's too short for me to make a full YouTube video. It's not worth the hassle of me jumping on a 3-minute YouTube video, but stuff that I can condense into a information packed 1 minute, and then I can post it onto a short platform. And I can also repurpose that content as YouTube shorts. So both audiences get it.
And you're going to do dancing too, right?
Exactly. I'm gonna do dancing as so. Whoever wants to follow me there, the handle is the same as my X handle, which you see down here. Okay, finally, the HIMSS news. Let's jump into it. So, HIMSS announced news today that they added a new vice president of AI. This individual, Shankar Sadasivam, I'm gonna butcher that name. Basically has been appointed as their VP of AI, which I think is a really cool role that they are creating. According to an announcement he made on LinkedIn, in his statement, he highlighted the challenges in the U.S. healthcare system, noting that despite $4.5 trillion in annual spending, millions of Americans struggle to access timely, high-quality, and personalized care. Sadasivam explained that HIMSS and HERS aims to transform healthcare delivery by making it more accessible, proactive, personalized, cost-effective. The company views AI as a foundational enabler of this vision and is making significant investments of that technology. The CEO, Andrew Dudum, welcomed him into the company, stating that they are obsessively focused on building what I believe, this is a quote from the CEO, will be one of the most impactful applications of AI. So this is going to be really cool when you're thinking about the AI foundational layer that HIMSS has, and now having like that as a department. So I can share your screen here, Roy?
Yeah. I just pulled him up on LinkedIn because I was curious. He comes over from Cruise, which of course is where the CTO is from too. So likely that connection. But yeah, I mean, you never know. People can post things that it's not meaningful, but seems pretty accomplished. Interim at IBM Research, Qualcomm principal technical lead and manager, head of AI for optimizing Qualcomm chips. Cruise, head of AV behaviors and planning, which is pretty comprehensive and yes, very focused on AI. I know Cruise was not successful, and that is the pushback from I've seen with the CTO, and I'm sure probably this guy too, but this is breaking news for me. Although it's interesting, he says May 2025, so 3 months. So I don't know what's up with that, but people can say, "Oh, Cruise was a failed project; it didn't work out, so obviously these guys are trash." And that's not the case at all. Especially with entrepreneurs, they will try and create and build a lot of things, and not everything is going to be successful. And case in point, Cruise, it didn't work out. That doesn't mean that some of the people there weren't phenomenal and very good at what they're doing. So we'll have to see how this actually gets pushed out. But I like the direction that HIMSS is going with that. Even more significantly, and I'm sure you guys talked about this on HIMSS Weekly, I really, really like that they are how they leverage their acquisitions and mergers. Of course, I think was it Tribe was the name of the New Jersey
Labs in fact,
they paid very, very little for. And I know that at least part of what they announced recently, was it Monday? This week has just been flying by. Let me pull up the rather than go to the website.
The blood testing is live on their
I'll actually just pull up Nate's thing. So I made a video on this too, but
Nate is a good follow on HIMSS. Elijah too. I've been seeing him post a lot of HIMSS stuff.
And they make fun of Tevis too, so like it's even better just for that. But yeah, in essence, you can go on the website and you can see all this too. But they released, they're announcing that they will be releasing this later this year, in-home testing for all sorts of different conditions. And so this is not usually a high margin product itself. There are services that do that and do health screenings. Here, they have Lifeline. The Houston area does. But what's really interesting to me is I think that this might actually be a loss leader for them. They mentioned we don't know the pricing, but they say, it's going to be competitive, like pretty much everything HIMS does. But this is really interesting too, especially if they do make it very low cost or even cheaper than a lot of other places. And even if they're losing money, what it's going to do is you'll go in and you'll be like, hey, I want to be tested for these things. And you're like, hey, there's no extra cost for testing for like liver health or cancer detection or nutrients and electrolytes, whatever it is. This actually might be the first HIMS product that I use, just because I'd love to see, depending on the price point, where I'm at. And what HIMS will be able to do is two things. One is they'll be like, if there's a condition where it's like, oh man, you've got this and we have this great product here, they'll be able to make those referrals. And it'll be a very easy setup because you've already trusted HIMS with your data. It infers med match, of course, and the more data that they have, the more compelling that is. Now, some of the things that they're testing for, in fact, at this point, there's a good number of them, and some of them I don't know what, like homocytosine is. I'm probably saying that wrong. But regardless, some of those things, they may not have a solution yet. And so it will infer like, oh, maybe they want to go that direction in the future with some of their products just because they're testing a lot of people and they're seeing that there's that need. But also this could be a referral system as well. So kind of like what we see for like, for instance, Sage Mortgages with Robinhood getting into the mortgage industry. They could say, you know what, this specific area we don't want to get into. We don't think that we can be competitive here, but we have this great partnership with so-and-so, and then they just have a referral bonus, which is, I mean, it's just pure margin there. So it's hard to see this not do well, especially if it's done well. It's compelling. It's easy to use. And they do great on the logistics side. They also do great on the marketing too. So this is really going to, I think, be accretive long-term in the company and also just help accelerate growth, accelerate revenue. And it's a great setup. A lot of things that HIMS announces, like the gummy for the ladies a couple of weeks ago, I'm like, yeah, it's nice, But this is one of those things where I was so excited when I saw that. I bought HIMS shares right then. I was just like, you know what? I'm not going to wait. I've been selling cash secured puts. They've not been filling. The stock price has not been cooperating. So I'm like, hey, let me just buy some shares right now.
I mean, look, when people look at HIMS, they look at the stock performance over the past 6 months and they think to themselves, oh, wait a minute, this is overvalued or this is going to fall drastically. When you look at the actual execution of the underlying company, what you see is a company that's growing triple digits, a company that only in February acquired Tribe Labs, and they're already going to integrate it into their system. And even if it is a loss leader, it's going to help them on their data advantage, on their cross-selling, on the blueprint for what they roll out in future developments for their product roadmap. You're looking at a company that has 2 major launches coming up this year, and a company that, despite losing that FDA shortage decision that happened in February, they're still thriving with regards to the weight loss segment. They're still putting up great numbers there, and we're going to see what those numbers are in a couple of weeks. You're looking at a company that, after they acquired Tribe in February, they acquired Zava. They're doing Europe expansion. They announced Canada expansion, and the company that's refreshed their entire executive team. The CTO and the VP of AI from Cruise. You have the chief product officer from Robinhood. You have the chief operations officer from Amazon that led the PillPack launch and has been with Amazon for like 20 years. And so this company is here to stay. They're growing drastically and they're profitable. I don't understand what you want more. I could not be more thrilled with how quickly the company is innovating and how quickly they're actually expanding. And I think the stock price right now reflects a $10-11 billion valuation. Like, that's peanuts compared to where they're going. Keep in mind that this company only has 2.4 million subscribers. And yeah, that's going to expand really fast with the international expansion. But like, it's so small from a market penetration perspective, and the roadmap for growth and the trajectory for growth that they have is incredibly exciting as a shareholder.
Yeah, the testosterone product that they're rolling out, I think, will be actually very significant. Liraglutide, I don't think as much. The Canada news was hilarious. So just if you guys aren't familiar with it, there's a great article by Market Watch, I believe, entitled something like how Novo Nordisk saved
Right.
hundreds to lose millions or billions. That they didn't refile their patent, so their patent expires January 4th in Canada. Would have cost them around $250 US or Canadian, doesn't really matter. And then they were sent a notification with a penalty, a late filing penalty, didn't pay it. And so Canada is up for grabs. HIMS is like, hey, it's our opportunity. There will, of course, be other competitors as well, but HIMS does very well with that setup. Is that the most massive market in the world? No, but there's a lot of people in Canada that are overweight. It is socialized medicine, but I don't know. Yeah, they're going to do just fine. But like even bigger news that I thought was bullish, there's like 3 different bullish setups there, was that Washington Post article that came out with Andrew Dedham, who talked about basically the behind the scenes thing of what happened with Novo Nordisk, how all that happened, the surprises along the way. To me, and time will tell, but to me, it took the lawsuit risk of being, 100% lawsuit or 99% lawsuit risk to, I don't know, 70%. I still think that there is quite a bit of risk there. I am seeing some concerns with that, with the way that they're marketing certain things, with the way that their website has been functioning. And I do think that there's a risk as we enter Q2 for earnings. We know that they're going to decline sequentially. That's not a surprise. The concern is if they don't. Let's say that they smash it on revenue and people will be excited and the stock will be flying.
Mm-hmm.
They do it on the back of just pumping out the 503A exceptions as far as the compounding that should only be for medical necessity. And they think medical necessity is everything. That's what others have alleged in it. So if they have a tremendous beat, I think that increases the lawsuit risk tremendously because they'll have the hard data right there. If they come under that because they oversold what they were able to do with the oral solution, I think there's risk. I don't know. Like Q2 is just one of those. It's the most interesting earnings of any company that I'm covering as far as the most significant. A lot of companies, it's like, it's just another checkpoint, along the road of great execution. But HIMS is like pivotal. So I'll have cash on the sides. I have shares ready to go. I'm going to be very cautious with covered calls. But it's an interesting setup. But I agree with what you said. Like this is, to me, it's in the fair value range. Long term, I think HIMS is going to be great. It may be a dip.
Yes.
And I hope that this happens. It could. But what I prefer happens is the stock always overreacts, right? It would be great if they have good earnings that for whatever reason, the market doesn't like something and it sells off to like 25 or 35. Man, that would be juicy. But usually in a bull market, those things don't happen as much. We'll have to see. By the way, you have some gifts there.
Yeah. I'm getting showered in memberships. So thank you very much, Dookie Pie. I mean, you read that name on the live stream. I just realized after I read it. Okay, so I wanted to cover this with regards to HIMS. Let me just pull this up for 1 second, and it's a post that I made on HIMS. Okay, so let me throw this up. I made this post, and I actually made a full video, and it's on that the Washington Post. Oh, holy, Josh, thank you for the $10. $100 January 2027 calls. I'm assuming he means on SoFi. I would not put those calls unless you plan on selling them much earlier on any type of pump. But I mean, your entire portfolio is in SoFi, Josh. So if anybody's going to do it, it's you.
I think he means PayPal, but he sent that to you. So
he definitely doesn't mean
not
PayPal.
Obligated.
Dude, nobody thinks about PayPal as much as you do. Oh, he means HIMS. Yes, I would absolutely put that on HIMS. Personally, I would put $100 calls on HIMS on the 2027s, 1,000%. Obviously, a very small bet that's very risk on.
But you're going to be paying a lot for that premium just because IV is so high. But I mean, I wouldn't bet the farm on it just because anything can happen. You may want to wait until after Q2 earnings. Just I don't know. I think that there might be an opportunity there. Personally, if I was going to make that bet, and I wouldn't, I would wait till quarter two is done. That way, you know the data, you're close there. It could be paying higher and a higher amount for that, but it's going to be an interesting quarter that kind of sets things up for the rest of the time. And usually, HIMS, I mean, right after earnings, like look at how volatile it is, upside and downside as well. So I would say just get things ready if you want to do that.
Yeah. Yes. I mean, I think, well, I already have 2027 calls on HIMS, except mine are $30 and $37 strike price. So definitely not. I think I have 65s as well, but I definitely don't have 100s. Hell, I wrote $55 puts on HIMS for September. So I think you know where I stand on that one specifically, Josh.
Yeah, vertical spreads are also another option too, if you're used to that. Limits your upside, but it also limits your downside. On some tickers too, like right now, there are some names. I'm not going to say names because I don't want people to get in the spreads that they shouldn't be if you're not sure what they are. But just because of how some stocks have been moving, you look at the highest strike for whatever range you're looking at, and those premiums can be absolutely obscene, especially, several quarters out. So I have some vertical spreads, and I've had some others that I've been eyeing where I'm like, why are people paying that for that much of a price? And so the nice thing about Robinhood, and I'm sure there's other platforms that do this as well, have options calculators where you can look at it and you can see, okay, what does it actually need to do for me to break even over the course of this option? Then what's the maximum upside? And a lot of those are like 5x or 10x plays where it's like, yeah, if you didn't have that higher leg, you could go higher, but I don't know. It's something to look into if you're used to vertical spreads.
Yeah. I mean, I was talking with Elijah and Nate in our group chat around potentially putting some vertical spreads on HIMS at, I think we were talking about 75, 105s, like a bull spread. So that could be an interesting range. But again, it's something where it has a high short interest. So it definitely has a high probability of squeezing. It really depends on the fundamentals. And I think that, if the company reports earnings in a couple of weeks and they knock it out of the park, yeah, you could definitely see the squeeze, because right now, everybody who's shorting HIMS, and by the way, the short interest is at all-time highs, they're all doing it on the back of this lawsuit risk. And if we're seeing that there's not going to, in fact, be a lawsuit risk, and the companies continue to execute triple-digit growth rates, then you're absolutely going to see a squeeze. Okay, so let me share this. Speaking of that lawsuit risk, so I made this post around some of the main takeaways from the Washington Post article. And I basically said, look, Novo and HIMS were discussing a new product. I don't know, Roy, if you saw this, but they were essentially looking at vials for Wegovy for HIMS to sell under their brand. So a significant expansion of their partnership. Yeah, Josh is in. And then Novo put pressure on HIMS to prioritize Wegovy over compounded semaglutide, and they actually ended the partnership without even notifying HIMS beforehand. They just notified it to the public, and management found out the same time that we found out, even though the stock was down 30% or something like this. And of course, which is what we expected from the outside, Novo was throwing their weight around, trying to bully HIMS into stopping the compounding, probably coaxing them with the Wegovy, expansion of their partnership. And what I found to be most interesting at the very, very last line was that Andrew Dudum, the CEO of HIMS, said he would not rule out a future partnership with Novo. So it looked to me as though this partnership was really a test to see how much Novo could get away with. And basically what they learned is hey, HIMS feels that they have significant leverage. They feel that they can't be bullied, and they feel confident in their position and in their growth trajectory. And I think that if in the future, if they, Novo or Lilly, wants to partner with HIMS again, it's going to be a partnership of equals that is treated as such by both parties, because Novo has done this exact same thing to smaller compounders, and they have actually gotten their way. And they didn't this time around with HIMS, and that's unfortunate. But I think it's a necessary step in terms of, or in anticipation of making a lasting partnership of equals.
Yeah, I didn't get that takeaway, but Andrew is very good at phrasing things in a way that seems bullish even when it's not. So I read it in corporate speak tone for the most part. Now I do think some of the behind scenes stuff was very helpful, and I do think that there's less risk of a lawsuit. Him saying that he's open to a partnership in the future is like somebody who was dumped by a very hot girl. They're like, yeah, I'd be open to a relationship in the future. Well, of course you would be. That doesn't mean that they're interested in you. So, but no, I agree. If there's a partnership, like if there was any misconceptions or anything was misconstrued, it won't be in the future. But I still think. Do you think? Okay, so let me ask you this, because I shared that maybe we're at like a 60 to 70% lawsuit risk from my perspective. What do you think that the risk is of a lawsuit if you had to quantify it?
I don't think that there is going to be a lawsuit.
Zero.
No. I wouldn't put it at 0, but I would put it at like maybe less than 50%, because I don't think there is any utility in Novo trying to go for a lawsuit. And the reason why is because they would risk so much to potentially gain so little. Keep in mind, man, that Novo Nordisk is a $223 billion company and Hims is a $10 billion company. Wegovy did over $7 billion in revenue over the past like 12 months alone in 2024. And even if there is a minuscule single-digit percentage risk that Hims wins that lawsuit and Novo's, flagship Wegovy product, their cash cow, essentially takes a hit, that would be so financially disastrous. Why would they risk any type of, potential of the lawsuit going wrong on a product that does $7 billion a year to win a lawsuit against a company that's entire market cap is $10 billion? Like, there's no equivalency there. And I think that it's not, like, from the game theory perspective, it just doesn't make sense for Novo to pursue something like that.
Yeah, I think what they're waiting for is one of two things. Either, and this will happen in Q2, possibly, they'll see that Hims has been egregious with that 503 exception, in which case it may be worth their while to sue simply just to shut that down, not just for Hims, but also for others as well that are trying to make that 503A pharmaceutical exception as far as compounding more normative, because it is. I don't think Hims should do that, honestly. I think that that's actually a very bad thing for drug development. But I don't think that 503A should be so selective that you're getting like 1% of people. Like, there could be legitimate reasons, and there are a lot of side effects, especially if somebody begins a GLP-1 solution that are very nasty. And so Hims can certainly help with that with some of the compounding stuff. So there's a middle ground there. But if they come out and they just have like ridiculous revenue from that side of the business that's coming from the 503A, I think that the chance of the lawsuit goes up tremendously. If it doesn't happen this quarter, that probably won't happen. The other thing that they're probably waiting on, because I think that you're right, there will be some blowback if they just sue them out of the gate. People will be like, why are they taking away my option here? But if there is some sort of headline thing, which happens with companies all the time, Tesla is probably the best example of this, where somebody gets in a wreck and they blame full self-driving, whether it is or not. If Hims, and they will have these along the way, like it's guaranteed in this field, it's one of the risks. Hims does a good job navigating this, but somebody takes a Hims product and or specifically a GLP-1 in this case that has been compounded, and they have deleterious effects as a result, and it becomes a big headline. I think that's when Novo also steps in, because they will portray themselves as the good guys, because they've done this in their press releases. They've done this even prior to this nasty breakup, where they're saying, "Oh, it's not FDA approved," which is stupid because FDA does not do the. They allow the 503B exception as far as the shortage list and compounding, but they also claim that it's not the same sanitary standards and conditions, and you don't know what's actually in it, and it's not legitimate, and there's risk for consumer health. But nobody really believes them, because, they have a vested interest to say that. But if there's a big headline, that's their opportunity. So Hopefully it doesn't happen. I agree with Nate that as time goes on, it's less and less likely. I think if we get past Q2, there's not a massive spike. I think the risk is probably pretty low again, maybe 20, 25% chance, but you always have that wild card there. And so that doesn't make HIMS for me untouchable. I still have a HIMS position. It just makes me like willing to add as we go down. Right now, I don't have any HIMS that I want to sell. Like it can go to $100, and I'm like, well, I'll hold HIMS. My position is not large enough to sell shares at $100. So
it's interesting that you mentioned that HIMS was coming off as that desperate one in that relationship where Andrew was leaving the door open, but I actually have the opposite take of thinking that's the mature stance, because I'm seeing what Novo is doing on the other side of the equation. And what they're doing is, obviously they're trying these new drugs that are, hopefully more effective than Wegovy, and that's not going well for them. And then they're putting out ads, like literally if you go on some of their main pages, they talk about these copycat, solutions that you shouldn't be using. You should be staying away from them, to the point where they were even texting people around, warning them around this. And I think
please.
Nate's comment.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. And I can even actually throw up the text messages here that Novo has been sending people, because that to me is way more desperate than anything that Andrew's doing. And in fact, what Andrew's doing sounds really like the adult in the room of saying, hey, didn't work out. We haven't ruled out that relationship regardless of, how they responded. Here, I have this text message here that I can throw up. And here you see that Novo is sending texts to doctors and nurses with links to buy Wegovy. And this is what they say. Patient safety is a top priority, which is why there's a concern about this non-FDA approved compounded semaglutide knockoff, exposing patients to serious safety and efficacy risks, so on and so forth. And it just screams so desperate. Exactly, right? Like it just looks like pure desperation, especially when you consider that this company, again, is 20 times larger than HIMS and hers. Like, how desperate do you have to be a $225 billion company? And you're actually sending out text messages. You're taking out full page ads. You're making web pages that are specific to this to warn people about this, compounded semaglutide. Honestly, Roy, I think if they were going to sue them, they would have done it already. And it's because they're not going to sue them that they do these things to try to dissuade them.
Maybe.
Now
Steve had an interesting comment there that the 1031, when Novo CEO testified to Congress, he did not come across well. It may not be wise for Novo to attack a small American company. It could be political. Novo is actually in a hard situation right now. Trump has mentioned a number of times actually now international pharmaceutical companies jacking up prices for American consumers. He's mentioned pharmaceutical tariffs as well. Novo has been under the spotlight, case in point, what Steve referred to. And that is something I had not actually thought of until Steve's comment. I appreciate that, by the way. There could be a big blowback if they're perceived as attacking an American company because of coming down hard on them. There could be a massive blowback for them as well. Whether there should be or not, that's up for debate. But maybe I'm overstating the risk for the lawsuit as a result, because there is a downside for Novo. I'll have to think about that one.
Yeah. And look, I think that, again, to Steve's credit, HIMS could absolutely sue Novo for harassment. And in this case, it would make sense, right? Because they are significantly the smaller company of the two with an outsized level of reward relative to the risk that they're taking on. Now, obviously, lawsuits should be a last resort for any company. And I think any lawsuit, regardless of the direction, is going to spook investors. I understand that. But I'm saying that HIMS, I feel, has just as much of a case to be made than Novo has. And that speaks to how weak Novo's case is.
So on Steve's point, They absolutely could, but that's not going to happen except as a countersuit. The reason why, if you can think of strategically, if HIMS initiates with a lawsuit, does that increase or decrease Novo suing them back? It increases it. This is one of those like Cold War type things where you're like, let's just like talk mean about each other and let's leave it right there with words. So, yeah. So I think that's a nice thing about the Q2 is I really do think Q2 is going to tell us very shortly after earnings whether or not this is going to lead to a lawsuit or not. If Novo, just pay attention to Novo's reactions and pay attention to what they're saying also on the earnings call. But yeah, that's the reason why HIMS is trading where it's at. Like if it wasn't for lawsuit risk, we would not have 34% short interest, which is crazy right now in a company like this. We'd probably be trading in the 60s or 70s. So, is it time to add? For me, I'm glad it's not as big of a position as it was. It ran very hard on me. I was glad to diversify a bit, but long-term, well-positioned, love what they're building, love what they're doing. There's been a lot of really good news, and it's volatile. I love it. It's not boring.
It is not boring, and I will absolutely take advantage of that volatility every single week, week in, week out, through cash secured puts, covered calls. Like I have I have cash secured puts on this week for 45. That's going to expire worthless, and I have 45s and 55s for September 19th. And I honestly feel confident going into earnings. I feel really good about the execution of this company and the growth trajectory that they have. So, I'm not really worried about Novo. I know the market is, but I don't think there's anything really to be worried about.
Yeah. You want to get into questions? We're at the hour mark.
Yeah, let me see if I can pull some questions up. Is the credit card business for SoFi a sleeper that's going to hit soon? What do you think, Roy?
No. But it's not positioned badly. They lost a lot of money on it. It's still a money loser for now. What they're allowing, some through natural attrition, and also a careful rollout of new products. They're making it so it's not a money loser. And when you do that, that's good for the business. Companies can make an insane amount from credit cards. I don't think that that's necessarily the right time for that. And I think that we've seen that as far as the quality of some of the products that they've released. They're not amazing, ridiculous credit cards. They're not really trying to compete. They're just add one more aspect that's accretive to the flywheel, and it will be accretive. It's kind of like the Invest platform, where even when crypto is relaunched, is the Invest platform going to just like go from kind of a dud to like amazing? Well, no, but it'll continue to improve along the way. And the great thing about SoFi is they have so many diversified aspects of their businesses. When you can have like 10 different ones that have shifted and become more accretive over the year, that is very meaningful. But I think that there's other things, such as the student loans very specifically, and the loan platform business as it relates to that are very interesting over the next 2 years.
Right. Yeah, I think the credit card business for SoFi, like while they're ramping it up, it's still very small in comparison to their other segments of business from a revenue generation perspective. Like it's still one of their, I don't want to call it a loss leader, but it's still something that they're in heavy research and development and scale on. It's not a profitable segment for them. So I don't think it's going to be a sleeper business, but it is something that's necessary to the ecosystem that's going to help with that flywheel. So it is necessary. It's just not going to be something that really differentiates them at this point in time. Hope my $107 hood covered calls expiring Friday the 18th are not exercised. That's 2 days, and I think hood closed at 103 today.
No, 103, 62, 64 right now. So yeah, this thing, I mean, let's just look at this thing, man.
Yeah.
Like it's 1 year, just like, and I need to add, let me add something. I'll just add this so we can see there we go. Yeah, hood is up 327% in the last year. Year to date, 149%. And then you just look at, this is on the daily. So like year to date, like just look at this March from 20s all the way up to over 100, which is ridiculous. Yeah, Robinhood can come back down. The nice thing about Robinhood earnings, we know most of the numbers going in. So like what surprises are we going to see? They don't even do guidance. So you're probably going to come close, especially if Bitcoin keeps climbing up, which I think that, I mean, Bitcoin for a while was just range bound. We've been hitting constant all-time highs every few days. I think that'll continue actually for a while until we'll have a blow off the top rally. When you see that, you're going to see a lot more volumes for Bitcoin. So you're going to see that really hit tickers like Robinhood, Coinbase, MicroStrategy, and others too. So be careful with covered calls, but those might be okay. Don't be afraid to roll.
I don't understand this comment. What in the world? You sell any covered calls with strike price less than Tevis's?
Yeah, that would be a mistake. Find out this man's covered calls and never sell at that price or below, unless you shares.
From Mexico, I sold 105s live on stream, and they did not hit. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. So, you're welcome. Yeah, Roy understood the assignment. Okay, next question. What are those 5 companies? In the beginning of the pod, we said that earnings season is going to bring opportunities, and there's only like 5 or 6 companies that I would be looking to add. I think those 5 or 6 companies are already ones that I'm heavily allocated in. I would just be looking to build a bigger position simply because I have the conviction. I don't necessarily have anything that I'm like really dying to get in. And I think if it was something that I'd be, so excited to get in that I'm like, oh my God, this is absolutely going to go higher, then I would just buy it regardless of the price and start averaging down if that were the case. I don't necessarily think I have any. I think Cloudflare is a company that I'd be interested to enter. Is that the thing you pulled up?
Throw this up. Yep. Yeah, Cloudflare is up massively. It's a high quality company. I think they're positioned very well. They're too expensive for me to buy it. I know that can be a mistake with some companies because you can look at metrics and be like, oh, it's always expensive. And Cloudflare will be. They're not wildly profitable. They're not growing like crazy. They are growing well. But yes, I want in this business. And if the market gives me an opportunity, I'm going to take that. And it will still, on paper, look like it's expensive, but that's fine. I also like what they're doing. I like the CEO a lot. I think he's incredible. I've been here and there looking into the business, and then recently, like, it's just all about net, all Cloudflare.
Yeah, Cloudflare is one that I would get into. Look, there's plenty of high quality companies that I would get into. I don't know that I would get into a lot of smaller cap companies, but because they've already by and large run by a good amount. Like I can't say to myself, oh, well, I would get into Rocket Lab if they dip, 10% or 20% on earnings and Rocket Lab's at $50. It's like, because Matt told me about Rocket Lab at $4 and I didn't get in because I'm an idiot. Or I was selling cash secured puts on Rocket Lab at, $18 and I just never got called. So I never turned a position because again, I'm an idiot. And so like now if it goes from 50 to 45 and I get in and I'm like, I'm negating stuff that I've said in the past. And yes, of course I can change my opinion, but I think by and large, like I'm in the stuff that I want to be in and I want to be in heavier on some of those things.
These are 2 others I'm looking in, but I'm not necessarily looking for like a certain price. The invest then investigate. eToro is one, and I see a couple of questions as far as did we sell out of Bull, Webull, what are we doing there? Yeah, I ended up this week closing out of my remaining shares. I had already sold the vertical spreads. I came out probably even on that, maybe a small loss. Just had some concerns. I don't think it's as high. I knew it wasn't as high quality company as Robinhood, but I still thought there was a great setup and opportunity. I think Webull blew it. Long term, maybe they're good. So eToro was one that actually IPO'd very recently. I think it is a higher quality leadership, but if you look at the actual company, and so I bought a small amount of shares. I think I'm probably going to be out of it this week. I've done enough due diligence now. There's still another pass through. I need to go through these 6K. The proxy filing materials. I'm about halfway through. It's like it's several hundred pages, just in case something else stands out to me. But I mean, that's the cool thing about looking at Webull and then eToro right after that is, if anything, basically I've come out with the conviction that Robinhood is not just an amazing company. It is generational. It is absolutely a generational company. It's going to be one of the largest financial or fintechs on the planet in the next decade. It will, I think, rival Visa and MasterCard. I think of it that highly. It's going to be insanely volatile. There will be buying opportunities in the future. It is still very cyclical. But yeah, so that one I'm close to scratching off the list as far as eToro. It's actually appreciated in price, which is nice. Now the other one is Aehr, AEHR. Basically, they do testing on chipsets at the wafer level, and so rather than just individual chips, they can do the whole wafer. And it's not just a specific type of chipsets that are coming out. Some that they lead on, some are pretty new, like the silicon photonics, which I'm like, I don't even know what that is. I've never heard of it. So I'm doing just very base level research. The interesting thing so eToro is, I think, about 5 billion market cap. Well, I don't have that pulled up here. So it's a very much a small cap. AEHR is actually a micro cap. It's about $500 million. So it's tiny. It's actually profitable. PE is around like 16 or 17. And there's basically a huge pain point for those that are actually creating chips. And it's not just AI chips and vehicles and EVs and all sorts of different devices. It's a massive industry that is scaling rapidly, changing rapidly as well. And the major pain point that I don't think will ever change as far as those that are manufacturing is, for the most part, they don't want to do in-house testing. Now, what they do instead is they buy the system from somebody like AHR, which is more specialized. There are like, is it Teradyne? I've only been looking in this like for about 4 or 5 days, which they do a lot more volume, but they're a lot less specialized as well. But they'll just buy the system. They'll have their engineers trained. There is some recurring revenue, but mostly it's a little bit lumpy. So. But there are some headwinds as well, because a lot of the way that they went is after the type of chips specifically to be testing in the EV sector. And there's also some uncertainty as far as tariffs, because they have international partners. And when international partners are like, hey, we don't know what's happening with tariffs, it can cause some headwinds as well. So it doesn't say everything is perfect and clear. I'm not investing in some crazy micro cap that may never be profitable. They've been around actually a long time. I'm just seeing something there as far as the quality of business and the differentiation that I think might be compelling, but that's probably one I'm going to keep looking at for a couple of weeks. But you guys heard it here first, other than mentioning it to a couple of guys. So, but that's what I'm keeping an eye on.
That's interesting. Yeah, I got to look into those as potential trades. I also want to bring this up because it's out of the queue, but Josh, with
all right,
to
Josh,
roll it,
you.
I feel like PayPal here is like buying SoFi under 10. Jump or stay away from the ledge. Josh read my mind because I was just about to respond to this comment around one potential name we could go into if they do fall on earnings. And here's my problem with PayPal is I can pretty much bet you money that they're more than likely to fall on earnings, because I think this market doesn't fundamentally respect their results as a company, definitely doesn't recognize a lot of their hidden value as a company. And the value investor in me is absolutely a hell yes about buying PayPal. Like, I agree with Josh here from a valuation perspective. My bigger problem is if PayPal reports great numbers and if they fall on earnings, and if I buy in, there is no guarantee as to when the market is going to start to realize their value. And yes, it could be like SoFi buying under 10, but it could also in another way be like SoFi of waiting years before the market starts to realize it. And so I think that's the risk with regards to PayPal. Nobody is arguing that it's a great company. Nobody is arguing that they have a lot going for them. And nobody's arguing that they're a cheap valuation. But what we're saying is that the market doesn't care, doesn't realize, and might not for years.
So throw up Nihar's comment, and then I'm going to go back to the PayPal thing because they do relate. ASML, I don't want to talk too much about the individual business, but they fell at the time about 10% despite, I think, beating. It was a double beat as far as revenue and EPS, if I'm not mistaken. They posted good numbers, but they issued weak guidance. A lot of that is tariff concerns, which I think might be overblown just given some of the deals and postponing of deadlines in Taco, but also, what other large companies are talking about as far as CapEx expenditure in that area. So, I'm not personally investing in that company. I don't know enough. I know what they do, but it's out of my competency. But what I am seeing with them, and then the previous week, Delta Airlines as well, which did okay as far as numbers, but they actually issued guidance and they issued it for the full time. A lot of companies were in this boat where they were not comfortable issuing guidance, or they just stood pat just because of tariffs. That's PayPal. PayPal did that. So back to Josh's question, if I see the trend in earnings of guidance being what is most significant, early trend is that is true. The last few weeks, top line revenue has been the biggest driver as far as stocks. That's why a lot of companies that are not profitable, that are just junk, but have good top line revenue, even though they'll never make a dime, they've been flying up. And PayPal will not have good top line revenue this quarter. They have a 5% headwind that persists through quarter two, and it really begins to abate in quarter three of negative 5% due to the Braintree strategy headwind that helps the bottom line. It helps transaction margin dollars, net dollars, essentially free cash flow and all of that. It helps margin significantly. But yeah, this quarter is the last quarter of those full headwinds. There's a little bit left in quarter three. It sounds like it's all gone in quarter four. They do have things that are accelerating revenue, but most of those are just partial quarter. The omni-channel push in Germany, which is going well. They have actually launching, which I think is pretty incredible and neat. The Venmo partnerships and PayPal partnerships specifically with student athletes in the Big 10 and Big 12. Over 700,000 students. They have large partnerships with Venmo. We saw the App Store ranking, what was happening with PayPal when they first rolled it out. And largely, I don't think that was about the Taco Bell deal. It was about these student athletes that could only really be paid there. Also a civil lawsuit as well, that you could only be paid through PayPal or a check as well. Long term, I think they have a lot of growth drivers, but this quarter specifically, they're going to beat on revenue. They're going to likely beat on EPS, although they did shift some of their marketing spend towards quarter two, so that's something to have an eye on. E-commerce looked like it grew very well. I think it was close to, I think at 9.9%. Adobe Analytics said on one of the opening days of Prime Day overall, not just for Amazon, but in large. In e-commerce, again, about 25% of that traffic worldwide goes through PayPal. So probably a little bit less than a 9.9% increase over those days for PayPal, just because a lot of it is in the US market, but that's a driver. 40-something% of the revenue comes from international. What has been a headwind for a long, long time has been the strong dollar. The DXY is a way to track that. When it's under 100, it means that it's actually trading weaker to a basket of currencies. Over 100, like 110, means it's very strong. And so companies that report international earnings, a lot of international earnings, they have headwinds. Now, they do currency hedging. So don't think that just because it's under parity that PayPal will post a ridiculous beat on revenue. They will post a beat because of it. And their dollar neutral numbers will look actually good for a change. Well, they've always looked good, but they'll look similar. But what it does mean is that they're probably going to hedge a lot less in future quarters. But the thing to keep an eye on is last quarter, Alex Chris and Jamie Miller as well said, hey, quarter two numbers, early read looks great. They reiterated that in fireside chats as well, but they would not up guidance as they typically would. And they guide very conservatively just because of the tariff noise. This quarter, what I'm seeing is companies are very confident in issuing guidance, even if they're in an industry that is impacted heavily by tariffs potentially. And so PayPal will up their guidance. I think they're going to up it a lot more than people expect, partly because they didn't from quarter one to quarter two, and partly because there are a lot of growth drivers coming in quarter three, some which have actually already been realized as well. So all that to say, sorry for going long. If the market continues to look at guidance as the most important thing this earnings, PayPal is going to go up on earnings. Now, you never know. I'm just guessing. I'm not making a bet on earnings. I have a big enough position. I'm going to be happy if it does. If the market is prioritizing top line revenue growth, PayPal will get cooked and sell off, and that's a great opportunity to enter if so. Too early in the earnings season to know. I think by next week we'll kind of know. That'll be the narrative. So, yeah.
Well, it's almost like you have a show on PayPal, right?
Yeah.
Do you do that? Do you do that weekly, bi-weekly? What's the frequency that you do that?
Monthly, supposedly, but I mean, it had been months. It'd probably been a quarter, actually. So I need to get back in the habit of doing it each month. It's been painful as a shareholder. Like, Sagig mentioned it. He said, like, everything else that I own that I've called out mostly has doubled this year, if not more. And like, that's true. I have a large PayPal position that has not.
Yeah.
It's actually, is it still down year to date? I think it is. Some of those are leaps, some of those are shares. It's more than 10% of my portfolio right now. And that's because I keep adding to it. It's not because it's running or outperforming. And it has been an opportunity cost. So was SoFi in the past. So was Robinhood in the past. So was Palantir in the past. This is, I would say, not the same tier of company as a Robinhood or Palantir. Don't get that in your mind. I think it's actually the same quality as far as a business as SoFi, but the market has not acted like that. So we'll see.
We have a lot of comments to get through, and
I'll be quicker. I apologize.
Okay, let's take a look. This is a question for you, Roy. Do you think my July 18th 157 50 Palantir covered calls are safe?
Safe? No. Be prepared to roll. I would probably take care of that tomorrow if I were you. The nice thing is, if you are comfortable with rolling, if you know how to do it, you can roll out to their earnings. But I would not wait until those go in the money. There's a lot of news related to Palantir this week, and it is not trading on a fundamental basis. So just be careful.
Let me actually timestamp this one. 27, let's say. Roy, I have a friend who just took a short position on Palantir. What would you tell that friend? And it's not me, by the way.
I think it's, I mean, it might work out for him, but shorting a company, if they're doing it based on valuation, which if they're not, I don't know what they're thinking, because it's one of the strongest and most powerful companies out there. Deep moat, clear differentiation, and they're in the middle of this narrative shift, which is going to last maybe 5 years, maybe a decade, maybe longer. So if it's based on pure fundamentals, I think it's a mistake. I think that there's way easier shorts. Go after something like, and this is not financial advice, but a Western Union. It's trading at like a 3 PE ratio. They have buybacks. They have like a almost 12% dividend, but that is an area that international remittances, it's being incredibly disrupted. And so it's, I think, a lot better and easier to go after companies that are really just value traps, honestly, at the end of the day, that are deteriorating, that are being disrupted, instead of very expensive companies that are killing it.
Well, I think his play is more around earnings and potentially it falling on the back of the expectations of poor earnings.
The earnings are not going to be poor. Now, the question is if they're priced for perfection or not, or beyond. I think that they have been, but we're going to see revenue growth of probably about 40% year over year. So I think it's very dangerous. Only do that with money you can afford to lose. And that's the thing, is if this is not a put position, you have unlimited downside. Now, I don't think that means Palantir is going to go to 200, 250. It could be for the end of the year. And again, I've sold a lot of Palantir. It's actually going to shock people how small Palantir is in my portfolio compared to where it was. So yeah, I like it.
Yeah, I mean, compared to what, like 80%? Anyways.
Well, no, it's actually, it may be not my largest position anymore.
That's because HIMS is now. You heard it here first. All right, next question. Hey guys, thoughts on Hood? Wonder if my 110 August ones are going to be challenged. I think absolutely, if you have August 1st covered calls, they will be challenged. If you had it for like next week, 110s, probably not. Even still, maybe. But August for, I think, is that over earnings?
Yeah, I was going to look that up. I should know this actually because I get to ask questions on the earnings call. But
that's such a fucking flex. You're like, oh, I'm an analyst, so
yeah, they're actually doing something really cool this time, which I had to say no to for earnings, but you guys will see it when it comes out. Just a different format, slightly than what they did before. So hopefully they'll do that again. I'll be able to do it. Why am I not seeing it? They announced it a while ago. I think that might be through earnings. I would be very careful with those. Bitcoin is running. There is some correlation to Bitcoin.
Is it actually? What's it at?
Yeah, 110s are not safe, buddy. That doesn't mean you need to get out of it or not. Maybe you're happy taking gains at 110. If so, let it run. If you're not, I don't know, man.
Yeah, the people know it's a flex. Yeah, the 110s are cooked. You're done. Okay, let's take a look at the next question.
July 30th. It is through. Yeah, Lemonade. That's all you, buddy.
Is that the day after earnings? 2 days after earnings?
August 2nd is 30 days after September, June, November. So 31st. So 3 days after. It's a Friday. They report on a Tuesday.
Yeah, say goodbye to your shares. Whoever put that comment, say goodbye to your shares. They're gone. Yeah, dude, Robinhood is insane. I caught it way too late, and I averaged up, and I'm still up like 60%, and it's just insane.
It's awesome.
Elijah, thoughts on Lemonade? Haven't heard y'all's thoughts on that yet. I initiated a small invest and investigate position. Roy would be proud. I think Lemonade is definitely due for prime time. It's going to turn into profitability very shortly, towards the end of 25 and in the beginning of 26. He responded saying, "If Tevis said, if Tevis sold my hands."
I mean, pretty much. Like, maybe take the other side of that. Just kidding. Don't do that. But
yeah. So back to the Lemonade question. I think that, it's a company that I have. I think it's 3% allocation for me. So I'm bullish on it. I think that there's a lot of things to love about Lemonade. The thing that I love the most about them is the fact that they're going to be turning into that profitability, and the market really rewards that. And we've seen that proven time and again with companies like, Palantir, Robinhood, SoFi, you name it, companies that have run tremendously. It's that same blueprint, over and over again. And I think Lemonade is going to be crossing that bridge towards the end of this year. Have you looked at Opendoor as a spec play? I saw it running, and there's a ton of questions around Opendoor here. And I think the reason why is because of how much it's running. Opendoor, the only thing I'll say on Opendoor is that we're going into a lower rate environment, and that's obviously going to be beneficial for housing. But at the same time, like, Opendoor was a company that was absolutely decimated after the last bull market. So take it with a grain of salt. I haven't looked at them since.
If I had to have a position in Opendoor right now, I would short it. I don't short companies. I'm not going to do that. The reason why is, okay, so right now there's a bunch of companies that don't make a dime that are just running. Like, look on Twitter, look on X. Some of them are good companies. Like Joby, I think, is actually a quality company. I don't know whether they'll make it or not. No, like, you look at the vertical integration they have, the engineering.
Aren't they pre-revenue?
They're pre-revenue, but I'm just saying they've run an incredible amount. They're not a trash company, but they are pre-revenue. There's a whole bunch of very speculative trash companies like this. Probably even Peloton is up. I had a small swing position on Peloton that I got out of, but I'm guessing they're up pretty good. No, they're actually down today. Interesting. But that's kind of the phase that we are right before earnings, or before earnings really, really kicks off hard, of a lot of garbage floating to the top. That doesn't mean open is necessarily garbage, but I've experienced that product. If you have not, before you get in, look at the quality of the houses, look at how they're working, look at people signing up, go through their customer service. My wife and I did this before we bought our house. And I was thinking at the time, I was like, hey, maybe we should think about getting an Opendoor position. We experienced it. It was terrible. It was terrible quality, terrible company, not actually terrible customer service. That was actually okay. We were just very underwhelmed and underimpressed. Now, the other thing is, people are counting on rates falling off a cliff. The 10-year treasury yield is what actually infers the 30-year mortgage rate. there's something called a secondary mortgage market, which is a spread between pre-trust between where the 10-year is and where the 30-year is. Now that spread can be variable over time, and it does vary company by company. When there's less risk and less volatility, that will come down. There is a small impact from cutting Fed funds rates on that 10-year Treasury yield, but it's not massive and it's not immediate. And so if you're counting on pressure mounting and Powell and others cutting, which they probably won't this month, but they will next month, maybe 2 by the end of the year, it's not going to make much of a difference as it relates to housing market. That's a thing that Pulte, the chair of, it's not FHA, but the organization there in the United States, he seems to not understand, which is weird. I see a lot of other people advocating for the same thing. It's like, dude, look at the 10-year Treasury. Like people that are actually in this industry, they know that's what infers that 30-year mortgage rate. And the biggest driver of that is United States ramping up debt and deficit spending. Yes, we had a surplus, which is because quarterly filings for sole proprietors, individual contractors, and companies. But if the United States was cutting expenditures a lot, I'd be like, okay, yeah, maybe. We're going the opposite way because of the big, beautiful bill. So be careful in those assumptions. I went long. My apologies. My apologies here. Am I wearing you out, Tevis?
No. I would say, look, if you're going to buy one of them, I think you know what I'm going to say, Roy. The company to buy is Redfin. And the reason to buy back, the reason to buy Redfin is because their CEO, I mean, he's somebody you want in the trenches.
I think they got acquired, though, right? Or
oh man,
yeah, they got acquired. So, and it was complete as of July 1st, so you can no longer invest in them. 1.75 billion, which makes me sad, but yeah, that's a cool CEO.
Yeah, and look, I think Elijah said Joby is Tevis's high conviction, and I'm going to do this. I don't know if Tanner's watching or if he isn't watching, but I'm going to do it. I'm gonna leak our DMs. I'm going to share my screen, and I got to make sure I share the correct screen here. I am going to tear into Tevis next show. Joby gang is what Tanner says. And the reason he is saying that is because Joby is up like a crazy amount.
Yeah, it's because we're in that phase of the market. And Joby has been doing well, like with their tests with the FAA. But here's what you say, Tevis, when he does that, you just ask him, it's like, well, congratulations. How much money did you make off this play again? And you just leave it like that.
Joby is up a lot.
Yeah.
I don't even know what to say, dude. Yeah, so I think Tanner might be winning this Christmas challenge, even though I didn't buy Joby and neither did he. So that speaks to our conviction in Joby. But there you have it, folks. Joby is up 100% year to date. If you want to beat the market, you invest in pre-revenue eVTOL companies. And look, man, I think this is why Gemini is kicking our ass on the stock draft, is because Gemini just picked all the shittiest, small cap companies.
Yeah. I've not looked into Plug Power, but it's up like 30 something % for it. And it's like, that's not a high quality company. It's not. So yeah, that's the nice thing is this is not a 1 month challenge. It's a 12-month challenge. So things will be very different in 12 months, hopefully.
Yeah. Okay. Next question. We have a lot to get through, Roy. I don't know, man. We haven't been this behind in a while.
Next.
Okay. Hold on. Let me.
I'll aim to answer in 3 sentences. They may be long sentences, but
is now the time for PayPal Leaps?
I kind of answered that before. I think so. I think so.
There you go, Josh. If you keep rolling covered calls, is it hard to buy back the shares? One thing that TJ taught me is it is much harder to roll the deeper underwater you are.
Yeah.
So
I had $70 covered calls, which are gone. Like they're gone. I made a mistake there.
Okay. Next question. Charlie, Would love to hear y'all's opinion on HIMS. So much new product. I mean, look, man, I think just watch the show. We talked about HIMS for like a good 30 minutes. Okay, next question. What if HIMS goes to 150 quick? Sell and hold? I think Heinz means sell or hold.
I have the way I'm doing it is I have a core position that I'm just holding, and all the rest is negotiable. I'll sell when it goes really high and spikes. I will buy when it goes low. That core position I'm happy to hold because I think over the next 5 to 10 years, really I'm aiming at 5 years, it's still going to go higher.
Yeah, I would absolutely sell my leaps, all of them, and I would probably hold my shares.
It's a nice thing about having leaps and shares.
That is the nice thing about them.
I've got I've got SoFi shares, and I'm not planning to sell those anytime soon at all. Like the price would have to get really stupid. But I have a bunch of leaps. I have none in my main portfolio that are 2026, but I do have like a little bit in the other account, and I've got a bunch of 27s at $10 strike, which I'll take profits. Probably not this year, but yeah.
Yeah, look, I think the other thing is when you're buying a stock and it's at $15 or $16 or whatever the case, let's say you have like, I think for me, my average is like $20 on HIMS, and that's after averaging up. If this thing goes to 150, like you can make a stupid amount of money just by doing covered calls at like a 20 delta because the stock is so highly valued and relative to your cost basis, you're getting a disproportionate ROI. And so I think that you can also milk it from that. I know Garcia has been doing that with like Palantir and even Rocket Lab, like buying in the single digits and then writing covered calls in the $100 range. Like you're basically making back your entire cost basis like every other week.
Mm-hmm.
So that's your answer, Heinzie. Are we out of bull? Yes, I fully sold out. Roy fully sold. Did you fully sell out? I know you.
I did this week. Yeah. Yeah, I used that same position. Actually, that position was larger than the position I have in eToro. But for my two invest and investigate, I'm just like, I'll just use these Webull funds for this.
Yeah. Elijah asks, will we find out how much HIMS paid for Zava? I think, Elijah, that's going to be in the next quarter. So not this time around, but the next quarter because of how it falls in their financials.
Or when the acquisition is complete, sometimes they'll announce it then. So,
how do you feel about Roman Health? Does he mean Row?
Row.
I don't know.
They are. It's the same. Yeah.
Ticker symbol. Aren't they direct competitor to HIMS, and they also have an Eli Lilly partnership? Yeah. Look, I mean, GLP-1s is a big space, man. There's a lot of overweight people in the world, and that can benefit from a health perspective from these drugs. And I think Row recently released some news that they just hit 2 million subscribers, which is kind of crazy to me because HIMS only has 2.4. So I don't want to discount them. I think Row also has some connections to Amazon, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I don't I don't think that they're the same quality company. I don't think their flywheel is nearly as compelling. And the bigger that HIMS gets, the more clout that they have as well, with a lot of partnerships and with people actually wanting access to their ecosystem. So I think that they're second tier. They're kind of like if HIMS is Robinhood, which I don't think it's necessarily generational. It might be. I think it's for me too early to say, but it's an excellent company. Then Row is like Webull, where it's like, well, it's a little weaker, a little sketchier. Maybe it's an eToro. I don't know.
Yeah, I just realized we didn't throw people any ads in this entire stream.
I have mine automated, so.
Oh, do you?
I let YouTube do it for me now.
I'm just going to give him one right now.
Yeah.
All right.
I'll give him another 2 then. So really milk it. There we go.
Yeah.
Thank you guys, by the way.
Look, man, this ad light experience, you've only had one ad in almost 2 hours of live stream, is brought to you by Josh and what was his name? And by hold on.
Starts with a D.
Yeah, Dookie Pie and Josh has financed this ad light experience for you almost entirely with their donations. So I think that answers that question. Can him sustain this level of growth?
It depends what you mean by this level. 100% year-over-year? No, absolutely not. Shortage list has ended. This is going to be the first sequential decline quarter-over-quarter. If it's not, I would actually be really concerned. But like 30 to 40% growth year-over-year, yes, they can sustain that.
Yeah.
Especially with Zaba. I mean, in Canada opening up in January, like they're still in hyper growth mode. It'll be very interesting too with the new hires, the CTO and the new guy that you showed.
Yeah, I can't pronounce his name, so I'm not even going to try. Let's move. Yeah, and even if they don't sustain this level of growth, I mean, look, man, they're growing triple digits. They're not going to keep that up forever. So even if they grow high double digits, that's still great. You expect a company as they get larger for their growth rates to fall. That's just natural. Like gravity is a real thing. So regardless of that, they're an amazing, fantastic company that has a very long runway ahead. Do you think we get any updates on crypto or the loan platform business for SoFi before Q2 earnings?
No,
I think they're going to be in a blackout period, honestly.
they are.
So I don't think you can expect anything really.
Yeah, and they'll give us updates at the earnings call soon enough. On the same day as PayPal, we say knock it off.
Well, here's the thing, man. PayPal and SoFi are reporting on the same day. HIMS and Palantir are reporting on the same day. It's going to be a tough time to be a live streamer, honestly, unless you're Dan Dolev and you have both phone calls going. So
yeah,
there you go. Thoughts on PayPal? I don't want to open this conversation. PayPal. Have you looked at Tiger? TIGR? No. Have you?
No, I've never heard of it.
No. Elijah says, what if you guys did a bootleg portfolio similar to what Matt and Chris do for Cash Flow Chronicles? That could be interesting for us to do.
Maybe at the year's end, that might be a fun thing to do for a year, just kind of track.
So what Matt and Chris do is they actually take all of their donation money that people donate and they put into that portfolio, and they invest in whatever the stock is that they're talking about. And that portfolio, I think, has grown, to quite a bit now. So we could try it. I don't know. It's something on the table.
Since you get more donations than I do, I like it.
Hey man, you got like $100 donation, like literally on Monday.
That is true. Actually, it was funny because I was just looking at that. I'm like, man, it's been like 2 months since I've had any kind of a donation at all. And then two guys donated. One in particular donated a ton, $100 gift. I think there was another $100 gift, another like 10 or 20. Somebody bought memberships. Somebody later in a later stream bought memberships. Josh just gave $10, and it just like, wow, I should have birthdays more often. But appreciate you guys, by the way. Now let's run another ad. Just kidding.
Okay. Next question. Just play like 10 ads in a row right now and we all grab drinks. YouTube Premium. You guys should get it. What other? Yeah, subscribe. I love how somebody got a Burrito Boys ad from my channel. I think that's totally on brand. Okay, so let's take a look. Next question is, am I going again to Japan this year? Probably not, but TBD. I'm the kind of person that books tickets like 2 days before the flight. So should Google split their stock 10-1? Yes.
Nah, not 10-1.
Not 10. I mean, should Google split their stock? Yes. I don't know about 10-1. Why not?
I don't like to see it under $20. Like it's weird.
Tevis, you're up huge on Joby. Fuck you.
And meanwhile, I have Block. Like I said it, I would prefer to have Joby over Block.
Yeah, exactly. Let's see. I'll donate $100 if you put Joby in the portfolio as the number one position. I don't know if this person means my actual number one position, my real portfolio, or if they mean in the stock draft. Because for $100 real, I would put Joby. Like, we're not betting money on the stock draft, so
Yeah.
Yeah, that could be fun. But
otherwise, we give all our money to Google.
Roy was going to pick up Joby in like the 12th round, but he didn't.
Yeah.
So jokes on him. He would have been winning.
Axon instead, and that's like, man. Yeah, I'm out at Nebius. I think it's a good company, Chip, but I made some money on it. It was an investigate thing. I actually made a good amount of money on it, and I just was like, you know what? I'd rather have more Nvidia, just because if they do well, Nvidia does well. Now, it doesn't mean that you'll have the same amount of gains as far as with Nvidia, but it just felt really safe at the time, and Nvidia has done really well, so I'm not complaining. Now, I have kept it on my watch list, and if it falls, then I'll be interested. But it's also a conglomerate, and I don't like those stocks nearly as much when it's a sum of parts and it's not necessarily a very cohesive ecosystem like the vertically integrated Tesla.
Yeah. What do you mean SoFi will be in a blackout period? So when the quarter ends and they actually have the results. So right now, they're reporting earnings in a couple of weeks. They have the results for the end of the quarter. And so the management team knows what the results are, but the market doesn't. So they're not really going to be announcing anything until the results are public. So that's what I mean by a blackout period.
Yeah. And it varies by company, but it's pretty traditional. Same with buybacks. Usually there's a time period, not because of the SEC or anything, but that they just won't buy up going up into earnings and shortly after too.
Okay, let's see here. We're going on a 2-hour stream. That's fun. I want to see Meta split.
Yes,
they've done that before.
10 for 1.
Oh, Chip Diamond, $2. Are you still in Nebius, Roy? Thoughts?
Yeah, I just shared.
You just okay. I'm still behind. I give you $100 if you get SoFi up 10. What? Okay, thanks, Neil. Yeah, exactly. Imagine Joby being a 7-figure position. I would not sleep easy at night. I mean, I might be a billionaire real quick, but I'm not going to sleep easy at night. Next or VG, I was looking at Next, Heinze, but it ran up insane. I think it's up like 20% in a week. And so I didn't have a chance to build a position.
Yeah.
And I think that's
one last question. SW, and then I saw some other people talking about crypto miners too. Myself, I don't have a place for crypto miners in my portfolio. If I'm going to do a proxy, IBIT, a Bitcoin ETF, something like that, that's fine. I do have a single leap. That's all. I'm waiting for it to fall. It may not fall. That's fine. But I'll probably get a small position of leaps there. I just prefer to DCA into a Bitcoin myself. Bought some Ethereum. That's working out well. Crypto miners are terrible businesses for the most part. Now, I did see somebody say Cypher. I was in Cypher previously. I think it's for a crypto miner, it's a higher quality. Iron, they are diversifying revenue. I would just prefer, like, if you like where they're diversifying into, just go after those type of companies instead, I think. If you like the crypto, go after MicroStrategy if you want something aggressive, or just own the coin. These companies buy private jets. They dilute endlessly. They're always racing against time just to stay alive. They'll have some good quarters, and then when Bitcoin falls, it's just tough.
Yeah, I think miners, like, you've convinced me on this point that they're just fundamentally not a great business model, and Bitcoin is very cyclical. And so there's going to come a time when your miners are not, doing just that great.
Trade them, don't go long, I think.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, let's take a look. Break. Oh, wow. Josh putting in money. When shall we expect the Roy and Tevis TikTok dance? Roy doesn't have TikTok, brother. And I think my TikTok, which I opened like a day ago, only has like 27 subscribers. So you're not getting a dance out of me anytime soon, Josh. Not even for $2. So thank you for that question. Chip, also asked, is Oscar a buy right here, Tevis? Do you still own? Yeah, I did some research on Oscar, but I never really dove into Oscar. I know it's like a cult favorite in the Twitter.
Yeah. Yeah, I have a video comparing Oscar and asking if it's the new hymns. My answer in that video was no. I think it's a decent business, not an amazing one. It's also in an industry I do not want to go into. I just don't like the way that health insurance works as a business. You make money by not paying out people that are issuing claims. So perhaps that they're better than a lot of companies in that area. I don't know. But I think over the next 3.5 years, they'll be okay. I just think there's better opportunities like HIMS.
Exactly. Let's see. I'm like behind in comments now because I've been getting distracted. Brokerage headquartered in Singapore, not interested really, but I will take a look, Brendan, for you.
I've heard of them actually. One of my internet friends in Singapore mentioned that they use Tiger. So
I saw that Peter Thiel got into the Tom Lee Ethereum thing, which was really cool.
Yeah.
Matty Money in the house, no invite. When 24-hour stream, Matt says, member for 22 months. That's how long we've been friends, Matt. 22 months. Is that that's how long he told me about Rocket Lab. He told me to invest in Rocket Lab probably 22 months ago when it was at $4, and now it's at $50. And Matt is like a multi-millionaire.
Yeah. By the way, you should give him an invite next week, but just like change one of the letters randomly. So it's an invite. It's just one that doesn't work. So it's a nice rug pull on Matt Money.
Yes. Yeah. We love rug pulling Matt Money. Okay. Shall we wrap there? Am I in new? I am not in new. I had a position. I didn't want to stay into that position. Well, it was, quite frankly, it was a leaps position. And I bought it when new initially dropped on the currency fears. And I sold it when they went up after earnings. Again, like I bought it at 11. I sold it at 15. Made, a good return for the amount of time I held. And then I sold out because I just think that like new is executing. They're doing great. It's just the I don't know. I didn't want to be in it.
Yeah, I've been adding. It's been a nice rebound. So yeah, good company. Long-term horizon.
This is the correct question, Heinze. Y'all weren't friends in Vegas. What do you have to say to that, Matthew? Okay, shall we wrap there, Roy? It's almost 2 hours on the dot. Yeah, thank you. Shall we wrap there, or do you have anything else?
No, I think that's good. Let's get out before the 2-hour mark.
Yes, actually, funny enough, TikTok was Matt's idea. He was like, "Hey, you should do a TikTok channel," and I was like, "Okay." And so this is why I started it, and yeah, we'll see how long that lasts. If I do keep it up or not, I'm afraid I might be too old for the TikTok generation.
Yeah, you got the looks though, so you'll be okay.
I am not so sure about that, but I appreciate the sentiment. Yes, we did meet June in Vegas. Lovely human, and that's actually when I met Matt for the first time. Was in Vegas as well, and then many Mexico trips and pina coladas later, he became a member. So you got your answer, Heinze. Anyways, thank you so much, everybody, for watching the show. Extra long show tonight. Join us next week, where hopefully we will not be doing this on a Wednesday.
It does make it harder. So Tuesdays are preferable, but thank you guys for joining us for this one. Thank you for your questions. You guys make this a lot of fun. If it was just Tevis and I talking, it'd still be a good time, but not like this. So yeah, you guys really do make the show.
Josh says Vegas 2026. Josh, when SoFi goes to $45 by June of 2026, you're going to buy both Roy and I the tickets, and we will absolutely join you in Vegas, my friend.
What does he need to do if it goes to Stock Goat's $75 price prediction?
Then he flies us on his jet.
All right. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, and Matt Money is on TikTok, and yeah, Josh agrees. Okay, I could stay here for much longer getting distracted with you folks, but thanks so much for watching. See you next time, and that's it. Bye.
Later.